Most of the beginners have the wrong left-hand foundations, blocking any lasting progress and making it impossible to sound beautifully. But after teaching hundreds of adult students and reviewing more than 800 books, I found what are the most important principles to play every note perfectly every single time. And today I will share with you first the left-hand flexibility principles that will allow you to play anything accurately. Then we'll see how to play the right notes systematically on every string. And then how to master string crossings to play anything beautifully. And first, let's start with the left-hand flexibility principle. They are really important to be able later on to play with vibrato, do shifting, and any technique on the violin. And the first principle is the straight wrist principle. Most beginners hold the violin like that with the wrist bended in one direction or the other. Instead, what you want to do is to keep at all times the wrist in perfect alignment with your hand and your arm, like that. And then it doesn't matter on which string you play or which finger you play, it should stay the same. Here from below. Then the next very important point is that you want to make sure that you don't squeeze the violin between your thumb and forefinger. That means that instead of trying to hold the violin by pressing on both sides of the neck of the violin, you want instead to let the violin rest on your hand. Okay, a little bit like that, it's resting. I'm not trying to hold it on both sides, I'm not trying to hold it. I let it rest on my hand. And for that, I will do a V with my thumb and forefinger, like that. And then the violin will come and rest here, between both. But not here at the bottom, okay? It will not come here completely at the bottom. Instead, it will be approximately here, letting some empty space below. You will see actually exactly that the violin will come in contact with the thumb at approximately this point here. And for the index finger, approximately here. Then next principle, you need to check that you can shift freely. What this means is that you will move your hand up and down slowly, and notice that you can do that freely. If instead you feel that you are struggling, that it's blocked, that means you are not holding the violin the right way. It should be very light and very easy. The next point is that we want to minimize finger pressure. The biggest issue is that most people press with the finger on the string way too much. So let me show you here with this illustration a little bit. On the first one, you can see what happens when you press the finger on the string too much. So this represents the finger, this represents the string, and this represents the fingerboard. The thing is that when you press the finger completely on the string, it doesn't improve your sound, but it blocks entirely your hand. What you want to do as an exercise is try to lift the finger progressively, releasing the pressure step by step with the finger. And as you do that, you will come to a point, like you can see in the third illustration, that your finger is touching the string, but the string is not pressing anymore the fingerboard. When that happens, it will sound like that, and you will not have a good sound. That's not enough pressure. So what you want to do is to start again pressing the finger on the string until you find a clear note. And that will be enough, and you don't want to press more. That's what is shown in the second illustration. Then something very important to understand is how you play every note. We want to articulate each finger. That means that when you want to play a note, instead of thinking of pressing the string, we want to bring the finger with speed on the string like that. And then we want to lift it with speed either. And when you bring your finger on the string and then lift it, you should be able to hear the string. Let me show you in the microphone. But your hand should be very relaxed. So now let us go to the next part. One string principles. Those are really important to make sure that every time you play a note on one string, you play it accurately. And the first principle is that your elbow should be aligned with the strings. That means that when you play on one string, you should move your elbow to the right position so that your fingers naturally come over the string. So for example here, when I play on the G string, that will be my elbow position. And when I play on the E string, that will be the right elbow positions. Here you can see with my finger above the string on the E string, and here on the G strings. At the same time, you want to check this. That's the angle between your hand and the neck of the violin. If it's too open, it will become very difficult to play the fourth finger, because your finger will be very far from the string. That's why you want to turn it inside so that your fingers naturally come above the string. And by adjusting this angle plus your elbow, you will be able to keep the finger close to the string. So that, for example, will be a very good position for the D string. You can see that now I can play every note on the D string just by moving the fingers. And that's a very important principle. When you play on one string, you want to play every note just by moving the fingers. Never by moving the entire arm like that, and never by moving the wrist or the entire arm. Only the fingers. Always from the first knuckle here. And something you should really check too is our free violin masterclass, because there I show you really what are the most important principles to play the violin beautifully as an adult beginner. You can register for free with the link below this video. So now for the fourth finger, especially you want to make sure that it stays approximately maximal between 10 and 20 millimeters above the string. Okay, it should never be here. Always close to the strings. So the next principle is that you always want to leave previous finger on the string, but with minimal pressure. For example, let's say you play a simple D string scales like our student learn in level 1, that you can see here. So the principle is that you start with a D open string, then you play the first finger, then the second finger, then the third finger, then the fourth finger, all in the same string. And most people do that wrong by lifting previous finger. Instead, you want to leave previous fingers on the string. But at the same time, you want to do that with minimal pressure. That means, if we look back at our illustration, if I'm playing the fourth finger, my fourth finger will be, like in the second illustration, pressing the string enough so that it sounds beautifully, but not more than necessary. And at the same time, my first, second, and third finger will still touch the string. But they don't need really to press it. They could just press it very lightly, like here, touching only the string but not the fingerboard. Just so that they stay where they are, but without adding any tension. And now it's time to see some of the most important principles, the string crossing principles. String crossing refers to when you need to play on one string and then to play on the next one, or any other string, basically. And that's what will happen in any piece you play, basically. And the issue is that if you do it wrong, like most people, it's become very, very, very difficult to play the right note after the string crossing. So here's the most important principle to get it right every single time. As example, here one exercise that our teacher teach in level 2. When you, for example, play one first finger to the fourth finger on the next string, that's something very difficult to do cleanly. And the main reason for that is that most students will lift the first finger while doing that. They will play it like this. That means they will put the fourth finger on the string and at the same time lift the first finger. And that's very unstable. Instead, what you want to do is what you can see here in this first exercise, is that the first finger stay on the string the whole time. Actually, the same way as you will do if you played only on one string. So here in this exercise, you have the B first finger on the A string, then the E fourth finger on the same string. And then when you do that on the same string, that's the same principle. You keep the first finger on the string all the time. And there, in the second bar, what we do is that we do the same, but with the string crossing. 1 to 4 with the B first finger A string, to A, fourth finger on the D string. And the secret here is to leave your first finger on the string the whole time. And that's what you should do 80% of the time, but in some cases there is something that's easier and more suited. You can see it here. Sometimes it's easier instead to bring the next finger on the string in advance. Okay? So in this example, I'm playing a G on the D string, third finger. And then I want to play a B, first finger on the A string. So here the same. If I try at the same time to lift my third finger and bring the first finger on the string at the same time, that's very difficult. It's very unstable. Instead, what I want to do is while I'm playing my G third finger, place my first finger on the A string already. So that when I want to play it, now I don't need to place the first finger on the string, I need only to lift my third finger. That's way easier. And one last principle that's super important because it could ruin your technique is that every time you have a string crossing, you need to move your elbow to the next string. That means here, to take again the previous example with the first and fourth finger. When I play my B first finger, my elbow, my hand, my finger, everything is placed above the A string. And if I stay there and try to play my fourth finger, what will happen is this. My fourth finger will be completely overextended. And because of that, it will be difficult to play it right, because it will be way too far. What I want to do instead is that before I start playing it, I place my elbow on the right string by moving my elbow, in this case, on the right side. And now my fourth finger is rounded, is in the right position, so that's easy to play it. So it will look like that. I play my first finger, I move my elbow, and then I play the fourth finger. That's especially important when you play on the E string. Here, I see a lot of students playing on the E string like that. Instead, what they just need to do is to adjust the elbow by moving it on the left side. So those are really the mechanics of the left hand, but at the same time, to really play in tune, you need to understand how to apply the 4-finger patterns. And I show you that in this video there.